Hi everyone, so in today's video we're going to have a look at major developments in technology for the second year revision. So just to recap, so this topic is a very broad topic, so you'd expect it to be able to come up with like 2 or 3 different products and you can talk about how they have developed over time. Then there are a few new processes and materials and those sorts of things that have been used that you can talk about as well. So I've got one example which I talked about last year that I'll talk you through, and then you need to be able to do that for a couple of other types of products as well. So look at the radio. So 1930s, radios start to become more mainstream. You've got handcrafted, so these big, beautiful, but very heavy, not portable anyway, radios that become like the focal point of like the living room with family. You've got this thermonic valve, which is this huge valve that allows the circuit to run. Then in the 1940s, you've got the introduction of what's called bakelite, which is a new development in material. This is a thermosetting plastic. So that's then what changes the style a little bit more. Then you go into the 1950s. So obviously 1940s bakelite comes in, but it's not really becomes a mainstream thing yet until the 1950s. Then it becomes a lot more commercially used. Then you have a major breakthrough in terms of the transistor. So this replaces the thermonic valve. This then means the transistor works basically in a tiny electrical switch that just amplifies a radio signal. So what this then means is that you start to get portable power sources. That then means that for the first time you can have a portable radio that is not this huge heavy thing that you have to carry around, like you can't carry around with you. Whereas now we've got the early signs of having a portable music player, radio, that sort of thing, as things get a lot smaller. Then as you get into the 60s, a change in like fashion, so obviously the swinging 60s, the hippie movement, things are a lot more bright, colourful. People have got like a lot more free thought, everyone a lot more customization of the things they want, so you have a lot more like clad in like fake leather, and then just little changes happening in terms of like the sound getting a little bit clearer, which means music becomes a lot more popular. You got things like the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, they become a lot more mainstream because the radio is more available. Then you got 1970s, which is a lot more use of thermoplastics being used, and also the introduction of injection molding to make like the bodies of things, which means that things can be mass produced a lot easier, which then automatically means that the price comes down. So this is the time of like the space race, so everyone thought everyone's going to be living in space, so everything's all these weird bubbly things. They thought that's what things would look like if we met aliens, and it was all like these space age type of things. And then at this time as well, you got the introduction of the silicon chip. So this was then, what this allowed you to do was miniaturize electronic products. So you have these tiny little circuit boards now, because in these chips you'd have hundreds or thousands of transistors and other components. That meant you didn't need to have such a huge amount of things on the inside of it. That then led to, again, another step in it, things becoming more portable again. So in the 80s and 90s, before you had smartphones and iPods, you got the first really portable kind of things, like the Sony Walkman, like the first portable cassette player, because that meant that you actually could carry things around with you a lot more. And then obviously from that you get into like a portable CD player, and then eventually that turns into like your portable MP3 player, that turns into your iPod, which then turns into your smartphone. Other things that then kind of develop as you go along with that. In the 90s you get a lot more introduction, like ergonomics starts to become a bit more of a thing, because before that things weren't really made for comfort in mind because people hadn't really thought of it. But now as things become more portable and you're holding things, interacting with it a lot more, you suddenly realise actually this needs to be a little bit neater, needs to feel a little nicer. Things become a lot more lightweight because of the, again, more use of plastics, injection molding, things becoming more hollow, adding things like screens on there so you can see what's going on. And then up to present day, where you've got like digital radio, where the sound quality is excellent and you can actually listen to radio stations from all over the world as well. So that is the development of the radio. Obviously you need to be able to do that for other types of products as well, things like light bulbs, batteries. You could do like technology, phone technology as well. And just a couple of other things to go over. So electrohydraulic forming, so this is a new, well not new, but it's like a reintroduced as a forming method for metals because it's a lot faster because you can do complex shapes and only need to make one side of a mold, so it becomes a lot easier. So if I just quickly show you a diagram that explains the process. So this is electro hydraulic forming. So you've got your tank, your container with all your water in it. You have your material clamped in place with your ring clamp, and you only need half a mold. And then basically electricity goes through, vacuum comes down, and it forces the material to go around the mold really, really quickly. It meant that you could mass produce things really, really easily. And then next, so advancements in 3D printing. So then you got like direct metal laser sintering, so you can 3D print metal, you can 3D print concrete. Things become a lot more strong, a lot more lightweight. You got also like 3D printing carbon fiber, which is what they use a lot more in like racing cars, that type of thing. Then you got polymer injection molding, which was then developed into fiber injection molding. So that's why you can like injection mold things like fiberglass, carbon fiber again, so you can have more complex shapes. Laser beam welding, which meant that you can now develop and you can weld two dissimilar materials together, because typically with welding you're doing like steel to steel, aluminium to aluminium. So this will let you do like two different materials together. It won't distort the metal as much from the heat, so it won't cause it to change shape when you don't need filler rods with it. And then physical vapor deposition, and that will let you get rid of electroplating to protect, like a protective coating around metal. So as well as those, obviously, like I said before, you need to be able to pick a few different products and talk about how they have developed over time. So we're going to have a look at some questions now that are taken from like the past few years. So the first one, so we've referenced the two different technological developments. Describe in detail how each has impacted on the evolution of modern electronic products. So 40 marks. So 40 marks for about two things. So basically that's 7 marks for each development, which is 3 or 4 points each with an explanation. Call it 4 just to be safe. Think carefully about what you pick. Obviously it's got to be something you can write about, something you can write 3 or 4 points about. So it could be development in the actual electronic components themselves, like the transistors and silicon chips, that sort of thing. Or it could be a manufacturing method that would, like, say, make the casing for it. So the casing for a cassette player or a CD player or an iPod, that sort of thing. So pause the video, give yourself 40 minutes, then unpause it and we'll go for the answer. So got 2 examples. So as we talked about a second ago, it could be a manufacturing process, it could be an actual electronic component development as well. So with, you could say, injection molding, so that comes into place and that lets you then get loads of different colours of products. You can make things on a large scale a lot easier, because once you've got the mold you just keep making things over and over again. You can make really complex parts, which then means that it becomes cheaper because you're not making as many parts fit together, so you can make more complex pieces as well. And then it's a good electrical insulator because it's a polymer anyway, so it just involves making the casing a lot better. And then, as we talked about with the radio, development of the transistor, so you have the miniaturization of electronics, so it then becomes a lot easier to move around, it becomes a lot more reliable, it doesn't get out as much heat, it becomes a lot cheaper to produce. And last question, so the application of new technology and the use of modern materials have changed the function and use of many of today's products. So for each of the following, infrared or Bluetooth, smart materials, microchips and rechargeable batteries, name a specific product that makes use of the new material or the new technology. And then part B, explain how the new technology or modern materials improve the function and use of each of the products you have named. So next question, so the application of new technology and the use of modern materials has changed the function and use of many. So, oh, fuck's sake. Okay, 3, 2, 1. So the application of new technology and the use of modern materials have changed the function and use of many of today's products. For each of the following, infrared or Bluetooth, smart materials, microchips or rechargeable batteries and technology, name a specific product that makes use of the new technology / modern material. And then part B, explain how the new technology or modern material has improved the function and use of each of the products you have named in part A. So just breaking that down first of all, part A, quite simple, 4 marks, 1 mark each for saying which one is correct. And then part B, so 24 marks to write about 4 different products. So obviously 24 marks, you think, oh my god, that's a huge amount of things, which it is, but 24 marks for 4 things, which just means 6 marks for each product, which again, break that down more, is 3 points with explanations that you need to have. And then obviously, because it's a long mark question as well, there needs to be a summary at the end of it, and then you will be assessed on your spelling, punctuation and grammar as well. So pause the video, give yourself 28 minutes, and then we'll go through. So we'll just look at one example just to show you what we'll go through. So if we do, say, take Bluetooth technology, okay, all right, so you could say things like mobile phone, and then take that and then, okay, how's that changed it then? So you could say, okay, that could be hands-free. So you got things, so like in the car, you don't need to have people on their phone while they're driving, which is then a big thing about safety features, that sort of thing. You can then share information. So instead of like sending text, you can Bluetooth, and you can send documents between two things. You can connect your phone to your laptop or anything like that a lot easier. So there's all these different possible things you can have. It's just making sure that the one you've picked, you've got enough that you can write about. So you take smart materials, so you've got to name a particular product that has been picked for. So smart material, and a big one we can always talk about is like children's food, and the fact that it is thermochromic material. So you could then say, okay, that would be a safety thing, because then you will know that it is a certain temperature where it's too hot to feed a certain child, or like, again, it could be a safety feature where it goes red hot, so you know, okay, don't touch it. So there's loads and loads of different possibilities you could look at. It is literally like with anything where it says you get to choose, just making sure you pick something that you think you can write about. If you've got any questions, send me a message on Teams or via email.